Next conference is the Pac-12, and I'm just gonna say this real quick. I'm just gonna talk about the Power Five, and that's the ACC, AAC, Big Ten, Big 12, Pac-12, and the SEC. Well, I think it's the Big Five, which is everything but the AAC and then AEC because they were kind of a bigger conference this year. So, um, with the Pac-12, you got Stanford, who is the best team, who won the conference championship. And then they're in the North. And going down the rest of the North, you got Oregon, who's perennially good. You got Washington State, Cal, Washington, Oregon State. Oregon State only won 2 games this year. That's kind of surprising to me. But I guess if you play your conference who's really good, someone's got to lose a game. So then looking at the South, you got Utah, USC, UCLA, Arizona State, Arizona, and then CU. That really hurts my heart because I love CU. They're my school. So that's kind of bad. And I think with this, I'm only going to talk about two teams and kind of touch on the rest. I'm going to talk about Stanford and UCLA. And CU is kind of not really going to do anything for a while. Arizona's got pretty good quarterback. They're going to do. They're played really good in their bowl game. I think Solomon's one of the better quarterbacks in the nation. Maybe not top 5, but easily top 10. So I think they're set for a couple of years. They just got to perform around him, get some people around him that can be good. Arizona State is usually good. I think they lost their bowl game. I think that's what. Yeah, they lost their bowl game to West Virginia. They have one of the faster-paced offenses in the nation, and basically every Pac-12 team does. But Arizona State is particularly good, particularly fast, and their quarterback is a younger guy who has a lot of experience. So they're a little bit of a dark horse in the Pac-12 this year. And then UCLA, like I said, I will talk about them in a minute. And then USC is another team. They're in the flux of coaches. They just hired Helton as their head coach, who was their interim, and I think he's going to do a lot of good for them. They're going to be interesting because I think they're losing their quarterback. Yeah, Kessler's definitely gone. He's a senior this year, and I can't think of who's going to replace him. They obviously have someone in the pipeline. They already have it all figured out, so it's going to be interesting. Utah kind of started out hot this year, and then they ended up really bad. So they didn't end up terrible. They finished 10-3, so that's not terrible. But started out really hot by beating Michigan, and then just kept going on a bunch of wins. And then they lost almost 3 in a row here. They lost the first one to Arizona, 37-30 in double overtime. Lost to UCLA, and then almost lost to Colorado, 24. They only beat them 20-14. Then they beat BYU by 7 in a interesting game. But Utah did lose to the USC, so I think that Utah's kind of set for the future. I don't really watch them. They're really fast paced. They have a good defense, so I think they're really good. Oregon State, not really that good. They went 2-10, so I don't see them doing much in the near future. They had basically a reshuffle of their whole team this past year, and they lost their head coach, so it's going to be another year of rebuilding for them. Washington looks interesting. They played really well a couple of games, but they have one of the top tier defenses as well. I think it's number 31, I want to say. I know it's at least top 50. And I think that they could beat about anyone, and they're just a good team. Cal is going to be an interesting one next year because they're losing Jared Goff, who is arguably the best quarterback in the nation this year. He had 45 touchdown passes, 4,500 yards passing. He was a premium pocket passer, big arm, everything you want in a quarterback. And it's just going to be interesting, I think. Washington State, Mike Leach, they have a good offense like usual and a pretty good defense as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do there. Oregon's losing both Lockie and Vernon Adams, but they got another transfer quarterback coming in. I don't really see them doing a lot. I mean, their quarterback's pretty good, but I don't see them winning a bunch of games or anything. So, I mean, they're obviously gonna be 9-4, but they're not gonna be top 25 material. So, moving on to the two teams I talked about, UCLA and Stanford. I'm gonna talk about UCLA first. Although they did lose their game to Nebraska, the bowl game to Nebraska, I think they have a bright, bright future ahead of them. They did get destroyed by Stanford, but Stanford's more of an experienced team than UCLA, sorry. And they did beat Utah, like I said. They did lose to USC, who really what this team is they're a bunch of young guys, and it really kind of shows. They lost their star in Miles Jack early in the season because he half got injured, kind of just quit because he didn't want to ruin his NFL chances. So, but that's his choice. I can't do anything about it. The only thing I could say is that wasn't really productive to the team or helpful to the team. So, Rosen, I think, is the best overall freshman in the nation. He was a true freshman this year and led this team to a 9-3 record, and he threw for like almost 300 yards or 400 yards a game. Threw for a bunch of yards, and he was accurate passer. He's really good. I think he's going to be really good at the next level. Honestly, I think he'll be good. I think UCLA is going to be good. They got a favorable schedule. And, with the Pac-12, they have enough pieces with him, and then Paul Perkins, who's only a sophomore or junior. I don't know if he's coming back, though, if he's a junior. And they got Walker. They got a bunch of guys here that can just catch the ball and do about anything with it. And Rosen likes to do more than just one read, so I think he's going to be a main piece of this team, and they're going to keep winning next year and be in the hunt for the Pac-12 championship, easily next year, and probably for at least the year after too. So, moving on to Stanford, after they lost their first game against Northwestern, they kind of got smart and, in my opinion, started giving it to the best player in the country, and Christian McCaffrey. You'll see it in my article. He didn't really play that much in the first two games, and then kind of just went off after that. So, if you haven't checked it out yet, go look at my article. That's on my blog. Link in the description to the blog. It'll be right on the front page. So, speaking of Stanford, though, I'm going to get back to this. They beat a lot of schools pretty easily, and that's mostly because they had McCaffrey, like I said. But Kevin Hogan looked really good this year. He should be a late round pick, maybe 5th or 6th round, if not earlier. That's kind of the floor for him, is 6th or 7th round. But McCaffrey's kind of the guy that just transcends the offense. He can run it, he can catch it, he can do about anything. He can return it. He does about everything for them, and he kind of won a couple games for these guys. Obviously, if they had someone else in there, like they have, I think it's Barry Sanders Jr., but he's leaving after this year. But I think they don't really have anyone as energetic or as good as he is on this team, and I don't think anyone really is as good as him on this team or on any team. So I think Stanford got a good chance of being really good next year. They need their quarterback to step up, play a little bit, to be at least at the level of Kevin Hogan. They don't have to be at the level of Luck or any of the past quarterbacks that they've had. So I think that they're going to be set for at least next year. And if McCaffrey, who is a true sophomore, decides to stay for another year into a senior year, I think they'll be set for 2 years. But that's really depending on what he does, if he decides to stay or not. So that's with that Pac-12. I think you got the two bigger names with Oregon and Stanford, and you got like Cal and UCLA, and you got all these big teams, and it's kind of a toss-up, but not. It kind of shakes itself out after the first week. Like, first 2 weeks, it didn't look like Stanford. Stanford was 1-1, and they didn't look like a top 10 team because they didn't have McCaffrey doing anything. They're just like, oh, McCaffrey's there, cool. He's not really doing much. And then week after, boom, he hits 200 yards, and he's just breaking out everywhere. And I think that's what they need to do, is just give the ball to McCaffrey, and that'll be how Stanford wins it. I think Oregon's not going to be as good. I think if you really look at it, it's going to be more of a Stanford, UCLA, at least next year. Maybe Arizona State can sneak in there if they get their quarterback situation and defensive situation right. Arizona, if they get their defensive situation right, it's going to be good. I think that it's really just going to boil down to Stanford and UCLA and whoever kind of wins that bloodbath. So I'm going to move on to the very last conference, which is the SEC, and then do a little bit of a roundup after that. So moving on to the SEC.